we do have a guest in the building, and so we want to acknowledge him. He's here on time, and as we said, there are a lot of different events happening tonight, so when a candidate chooses to be here, that makes a statement on its own. And so we really appreciate it. I'm going to bring up Dr. Joseph Swider, who has the best domain name I've seen yet, GoJoe, GAUX.com. So we're going to kind of change the format a little bit and just allow you to first just start, if you wouldn't mind, with an introduction about your candidacy. I'll ask a couple of quick questions, and then we're going to allow the audience, if you wouldn't mind, to take a few questions.
Thank you. First off, I'd like to thank you for inviting me here to speak tonight. I know the invitation listed me as Joe, but you can call me Joe. I'm Joe Swider. I'm a physician. I'm a veteran. I was a combat medic in the Army. I work as a deputy coroner in psychiatric services, and that's my specialty is child psychiatry. So I end up treating a lot of ADHD kids. I came down to the New Orleans area. I'm from this area, but I went and did my training up at Georgetown in D.C. I came down after the storm because 90% of the psychiatrists left. So I came down and started working at a nearby hospital, and in the process I was able to start a clinic, a free clinic for folks who didn't have a psychiatrist over at Odyssey House. I don't know if you'll know of Odyssey House. After about a year and a half and probably 50, 60 patients in this little clinic, I was told that it had to be shut because Jindal had cut the budget for the clinic. So that was a real a disappointment to me and my patients. Basically, small business is the backbone of America. Since the Great Recession, 67% of all jobs created have been created by small business. So what can we do to ensure that the small businesses in our community can continue to create those jobs? There's several things we can do. I mean, I know growing up as a kid, I used to bag ice in my uncle's convenience store. I used to mow lawns. Probably every summer I was working for some small business. So what can we do to increase the job creation in small business? Things I'd like to do is see state tax credits for some small businesses when it comes to sending their employees to get more education. Right now it's $5,000. I'd like to see that increase to $10,000. So if an employer wants to send his employees to get further job training, they'd be able to do that. I'd also like to see, if elected to the state senate, I'd like to see the state treasury not take so long in getting back small business their tax refunds. New Orleans is basically the face of America to the world. How can we bring back some of the Fortune 500 companies to this area? Well, they're looking for things like safe streets and good infrastructure and an educated workforce. These are going to be the priorities that I'm going to work towards if elected to be your state senator in Baton Rouge. Safe streets, infrastructure, and improved education opportunities. With that, I'd like to thank you and return.
It looks like we also have another candidate. Please take a seat. Just a quick introduction of who you are and your candidacy.
Good evening, everyone. Is it good evening or is it good evening? All right. Well, maybe I should have started out great evening, everyone. My name is Eric Caulfield, and I'm running for State Senate District number 4. That is a huge district. It includes Bayou St. John, which is my neighborhood. It also includes Lakeview, Mid-City, St. Rock, 7th Ward, Gentilly, Bridgewater, Marion, Bywater, Upper Ninth Ward, Jamaica East, between Morrison and Hayne. It's huge, very diverse. I probably should have started out by saying, as I always get when I get in front of any crowd, I'm first and foremost my mother's son. She was a nurse for 40 years. She cared about people. That's what's in me. There's nothing I can do about it, even if I wanted to, and I don't. So for me, this race is all 100% about people. It's not about a position, it's not about a title, it's not about a race or an election, it's about the people that I see every single day, and I've been fighting for that, and I hope I have a chance to tell you more about that. A little bit about my background, because I know I'm getting close to my time. I'm a proud graduate of Morehouse College, where I majored in physics and math. I did my master's and PhD in electrical engineering and computer science at MIT, where I focused on medical devices. How do you give people a shot at better health? I also served as student body president when I was at MIT. We got a maternity leave policy passed for women graduate students and got healthcare coverage for the majority of graduate students. I've been serious about these issues for a long time, even before I had a job or a title or it even mattered. These things were important to me and I fought for them. I spent 3 years working for the Obama White House, 1 year as a White House fellow doing economic development. How do you get companies to move into places and hire the people who live there? The work that I did was featured in the President's 2012 budget proposal to Congress. I've been serious about this for a long time. I worked for the White House 2 years here in New Orleans, led a federal team of 25 employees from 14 federal agencies. As part of that work, we created $4 million in construction jobs and got Congress drive fixed so you can drive on it today. We cut the number of people waiting to get psychiatric care in emergency rooms by 25% a year and found housing for nearly 70 of our fellow New Orleans who are homeless. These are issues that are important to me, and for me this race is all about people. I'm a small business owner myself. I started the Caulfield Consulting Group 2 years ago. We made two right at the beginning of December, so we got a birthday coming up. So after this election is over, we hope we'll have a big party celebrating many things. But at any rate, I'm very grateful to the collaborators, and thank you all for the opportunity to come and talk to you this evening. I look forward to the conversation. Thank you.
I think that's all we needed to hear, right? Two wonderful candidates, and there's more on the way. They're all texting me anxious at this point. But we're going to get started with what we do have, because we always honor our guests. The collaborative, just wanted to give you all a little background on us, and I didn't know if it's appropriate, Barbara, Geneva, one of you to come up and do a quick introduction to them so they know who we are. Barbara, please. So just give you a little bit of background so you know who you're talking to.
The collaborative is a group of small businesses that have come together to really around the issue of equity and parity, and I don't have my glasses, so I can't read that. Around equity and parity and access for small businesses, small disadvantaged businesses. We're 3 years old. Within those 3 years, we've been able to get a strong DE policy at the city level and get it as part of the city charter. But looking for folks at the state level who understand the marginalization of small businesses, particularly businesses of color, particularly here in New Orleans, African American business and women-owned businesses. And so that will be the kinds of issues that we want to discuss with you. And we've been around. We are not a lot of people here, but we represent not just small businesses actually, but community groups and organizations and service organizations. And everybody can be a part of the collaborative. So we'll have that discussion with you. And when you get to the state, we want to continue to have discussions with you.
Thank you. So some quick background, as Barbara just mentioned. The most recent, I think, kudo of this group is that we got passed an ordinance that DBE certified businesses, any work that's done at the city level, must hire 35% of that work to DBE businesses. That came from this group. We further took it, passed an ordinance, and now into a charter change that just occurred, or is occurring through our mayor. So very active policy-driven group, and also very active just business in general group. So some of the questions that you're going to hear tonight are going to come from individual business owners and how do you help us grow. We're going to get right to the questions. First up, and we'll take a minute per each answer, what is the candidate's plan for propelling equitable economic recovery?
I think it ends up being a very complicated question for a number of reasons, right? So we have good laws that are on the books, and I want to applaud the collaborative. I was actually in government when I came with that press conference. So congratulations and thank you for that important work. So there's the one part that having good policy that's in place. I think we have that now at the city level. The big part of it is just going to be the enforcement of it. It's still relatively new on the books, and so the question is, as we're looking at it over 5 to 10 years, is really to see whether or not all votes are being lifted. So there's a diligence part of it to just make sure that we're watching and making sure that it's working. members of this group talking to the folks, seeing whether there's access or not. I'm a DBE actually. My company, as soon as we incorporated, within a couple of months, I went and filled out my paperwork. I get the emails that say this is a job that's coming up. Do you want to, I've been a little distracted lately to take advantage of those. But I think there's an enforcement part. We've got good policy in place. It's just a matter of making sure that it works.
Very good.
Okay, well, I think a lot of the things that would help a minority business would help a small business in general. I agree with the ordinance. We want our businesses to reflect the members of our community. So we should do things that would further that. Again, I would look at reducing some of the taxes that small businesses have on them. Like I said, make it easier for them to get any tax deductions back and quickly. Employing locals instead of outsiders to come here. We're a city that seems to be very tourism oriented. We have a lot of service industry type jobs. It'd be great if we could get jobs that are more middle income, living wage type jobs. That's what I would work towards. And like I said, we're the face of America to the world, so getting some Fortune 500 companies back in here is going to be helpful, as well as many of the small businesses, which are the backbones of our community. I don't live far from the Circle Food Store. I was very happy to see that up and running again as an anchor to the community.
You see, let me ask you a question. So you see that you said that you agree with the current ordinance that's on the books here in the city, which is wonderful. Thank you for that. Would you support something at a statewide initiative around a similar kind of ordinance that would kind of give an opportunity for DBE certified farmers?
Of course. I mean, and again, the idea is to not leave any members of the community out. So again, if we have a city that has a significant portion of minorities, then we should have a business and industry that reflects that representation.
What role do you feel like you as an elected official play in making sure equity happens?
Well, first of all, in my day job, I'm a psychiatrist, so I listen a lot. And so I don't propose to have all the answers, but I think that out there in the community, there are people who do have answers. And so what I'd like to do is listen to them. And I'd like to meet with members of small business organizations such as this when it comes to crafting legislation which would be favorable to them.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
A couple of questions for you.
Same thing, first off, just as an elected official, what role do you feel like is your responsibility in increasing equity and real change happening? Particularly, you should know this group's number one agenda is not just DBE, but it's specific African American business development. Can you speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, and fundamentally, and I started, and I always start as any part of the way that I think about this race. Again, it's not about a position, it's about the people, right? The people that I'm representing, who are small business owners, who are minorities, who are not. And so for me, it all comes back to that. So in order to represent the people of the community, you have to ensure that everybody has a shot at chasing whatever their dream is. The idea that somebody like me who grew up in a single-parent household where sometimes we had to go to our church to get 3 cans of tuna because we couldn't afford to make groceries, would have a chance to go to Morehouse and MIT, work for the White House, and to start a company that's still open after 2 years in the city that I absolutely love. That's the American dream. And every single one of us, not only as Americans, but as New Orleanians, deserves a shot at that. And that's the whole reason why I'm in this race, because I believe in that idea. And so when you're talking about equity, it's equity for everybody. It's equity for everybody. So my job as a public official is to fight for the people who have sent me to office to represent them, who are people like me. And I say that broadly speaking, people like me. Not bald-headed people or people.
No, bald-headed's fine. That's a good thing. So a quick follow-up question. You obviously are extremely talented. You went off and did the education that you suggested. We see studies that show that you in New Orleans leave. You don't stay here because there's not opportunity. talk a little bit about that and why you came back, and moreover, what can we do to make sure that talent like you stays in this city?
Well, first they say you usually shouldn't argue with the person who invited you. So I'm just going to let that compliment pass. As
We argue with them all the time.
Honestly, I think to answer that question, I first give a little bit of context. I actually grew up the river in Baton Rouge. Anybody go to McMain here? I know people. Okay, that's probably sick. Okay, so I went to Scotlandville High School. Our girls track team used to run against McMain State. Sometimes we beat them, and sometimes they beat us. But people have long memories. I just need to put that out there before I get run out of it. So, but I grew up in Baton Rouge, and so when I was in D.C. and they asked me if I wanted to come to New Orleans and lead this federal team that I kind of described earlier, I said yes. Can I go back? Right, and so it took, and I literally remember this. I know I'm going over my thing. I was sitting in Barnes on my way to church. I was sitting in Barnes. I had been in New Orleans just on a visit. This was the preamble to going to the thing. And I had been here for less than 72 hours. But sitting at the end of the bar, talking to my friend who was there, listening to the music. I think Kermit Ruffins was playing that night, or maybe it was Corey Henry. I think it was Corey Henry too much. And in that moment, I knew that I was moving back to Louisiana and I was coming to New Orleans. I love this city. I love it. And so when I was here and I came back, the idea that I would want to go anywhere else, because they asked me after my 2-year project was up if I wanted to come back to D.C. and work for the White House. I said no. They said, you want to go to Detroit? They got their policy there. I'm like, no, I'm home. And so for me, I'm never gonna leave this place. And so I think I want to make sure I answer the right question. I think that being able to make it easier for people to open small businesses and be supportive for small businesses is a good thing to do. And I don't agree with my time, and I apologize to my
No. Everybody's going to get equal time. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So, as you can see, what we're trying to do with this session is allow y'all to open up a little more. The last session we had a lot more candidates, so we were really on their time. I'm being a little bit lax because we want to hear more from you. You guys are both very qualified candidates. Any closing statement that you all would like to share on your just candidacy in general? You each will have a minute, and then we're going to open it up for questions from the group. So we'll start here. You can keep your seat if you like. You can stand, whatever works for you.
So there's a number of challenges facing our state. The legislature didn't do a very good job of balancing the budget, and they're going probably about $100 million back into the red. That's something that's going to need to be addressed. At the next level, kind of the way I look at this, New Orleans is like a blue fishbowl in a very red state. So I'm swimming around the blue fishbowl, but so I'm going to be the blue fish, hopefully going to Baton Rouge, interacting with a lot of redfish. I like redfish to eat, but so it's about building relationships and alliances. That's what I do every day in my job. I have competing influences, and I try to bring them together and hopefully work together. I want to try to use those same abilities that I've learned as a psychiatrist at Georgetown and try to use those to bring together the legislators that I'll be working with to help them understand the issues and the difficulties facing the citizens of District 4. I hope that with my ability to convince and win over, that will benefit the constituents of District 4. That's what I bring to the table.
Thank you.
Again, for me, it all goes back to the people that are in this room, the people that are in the city, the people that are in the communities, people that I see when I'm going to make my groceries at Ross's, the people that I see when I'm walking down Esplanade to go find my dinner, the people that I see when I'm running through the park when I have time to actually exercise. That for me is what this race is all about, and that is what I've been about my entire adult life. And so for me, the idea of having a chance to go and fight in a place where the laws are being made that affect us every single day, that's what I'm about. That's the fight that I want to make so that every single one of us in the city, all of us, have a shot at being our best. That is the way that New Orleans will rise to her highest potential, is when all of us are our best. And so for me, I think there's good law to be made in New Orleans, in Baton Rouge, and I want to be a part of making that happen. Again, it's for the people.
Thank you, sir. All right, we're going to open it up now and take some questions. So if anybody has any questions, I'll just put this here.
Hi, my name is Ernest Stallworth. I'm a local contractor. I'm sorry, I'm a local contractor. My name is Ernest Stallworth. What I need from my state senator is some specific action. I need to know, and this is a question for both of you all, is will you support a DB program when you go to Baton Rouge as senators? And secondly, really important, will you help to restore the bonding assistance program in Baton Rouge? There was a program where small businesses could get bonds with the assistance of the state. The current governor totally cut it out, but it's imperative because our businesses can't bid contracts without bonds. So those two questions I asked both.
The answer to both of those questions, I think, is yes. As you know, my company is a management consulting firm, right? So for me, my startup was a laptop and some paper. But I know for a lot of companies that have to hire workers, who have to hire materials that they're going to sell, who have to hire make all kinds of other investments up front is hard. So I think there are two things. Well, so this is the answer to the second part. Yes, I would support the law. And the second one is the bonding assistance program. Absolutely. I think that's a good idea. There's more that I want to say about how we can support small businesses, but I'm going to go over myself.
You can answer.
Okay, so I think there are a couple of things we can do. The bonding assistance program is one. A lot of small businesses can't compete on good contracts, even if they can do the work, even if they have the people, they don't have the bonding capacity to be able to even get the door to bid on the contract, which is tough. That hurts a lot of business. The second thing I think that we can do, and I think it's a great idea not only for DBEs, but just for small businesses in general. Most of the jobs growth in this country, and I argue the state, comes from small businesses. It's not Fortune 500 companies that come in and hire folks, it's small businesses. I think that we need to have a tax incentive program for small businesses so that when they start up, they can get 2 to 3 years of having their taxes waived. We do that for large manufacturing companies that come into the state. They get 10 years of free tax. So I think that being able to have a similar program, even if it's for 2 or 3 years, because when you're starting out as a small business, the first 6 months, if you can make it the first 6 months to a year, being able to have that 20% of your taxes, knowing that you don't have to set it aside and pay, and you can actually have that put it back in the business.
Yeah, I think that the ability to and exposure to having a good education and being able to have employment opportunities is really a civil right. And we as a society should not just provide good quality education for our kids, but also have opportunities for them in the community. So yes, I would support DBE at the state level, at pushing that, as well as bonds for small businesses that are minority owned. But the ultimate goal would be encourage all folks to be able to participate in the job market. We don't want to leave people behind, anyone behind. That would be my goal if elected state senator.
In lieu of repeating that question, if you would just introduce yourself, and then I have 2 more questions if I can respond to that.
First of all, we apologize a little bit later. About 3 events that are going on, and I apologize for that. I'm trying to get everyone I possibly can. For some of you, it's be an introduction. For others, it'll be a presentation. But whatever the case may be, my name is Wesley T. Bishop. I've had a good fortune for the last 5 years to represent the 43,976 individuals who call District 99 home. With the retirement of State Senator Ed Murray, I'm seeking to move to State Senate District 4, which includes my entire State House district, with an additional 40,000 individuals. I've had good fortune to work, and some of you know, I serve as Associate Vice Chancellor at Southern University in New Orleans. Education is my pet project. Higher education is an extreme priority for me. I'm a product of New Orleans Parish Public Schools, Ghana 35, Suno, a bunch of different other places. But I've had a chance to work and to touch base just a little bit on what you guys talked about. I'll say serve the first vice chair of the Louisiana Legislative Black Caucus. Our primary job as a Black Caucus is to make sure that we look at every bill, not just bills that deal with education or anything else, but any bill that comes through the Louisiana House or the Senate, we make sure that this bill is working in the best interest of the African American population in the state of Louisiana. With that in mind, we have many different individuals, particularly business owners, who feel as if that pie is not fair. It's not fair in New Orleans, it's not fair in Baton Rouge, it's not fair throughout the entire state. So we need to figure out a way to force individuals, because people want individually to do the right thing. We've tried that, it does not work. So unless people are made to actually do something, unfortunately, folks who tend not to look like us won't often give individuals who do look like us a fair opportunity, even when we have a good product, even when we have a great service. We have to force individuals to act and potentially give them those kind of incentives to move peace forward. Because that's the only way you can actually grow it, because most businesses in this country are small businesses employing less than 100 individuals. So if we just pick up one like Bruno and Turlon, which at one time was a 3-person shop and is now the biggest accounting black firm in the entire, not just Louisiana, but in the entire South. I know because my father-in-law is the CEO of Bruno and Turlon, and I've heard the story as to how that works. We all know about the story in Atlanta, Georgia, how Maynard Jackson said the airport wasn't going to get built unless black folks built it. So we need to have that kind of situation here. We've seen Dutch Morial start that a long time ago. Unfortunately, we haven't seen as much of a situation as we should have seen in those 25 years since then. So that's what I'm about. That's what I like to push forward. And I think that most individuals, particularly when you're a DBE, not just a DBE, but a real DBE. We see a lot of games being played where individuals who start a company, put the company in their wife's name, and now they're a DBE all of a sudden so they can keep up. It's time out for those games. It's time out for those foolishness. And we'll make sure that we get that done.
Good introduction. So we got 2 questions. I would ask as I call out the collaborative members to ask a question. Introduce yourself first to the group and then ask your question. You're up next.
Thank you for being here, first of all. I'm a member of the collaborative. My name is Ian Tucker. I'm a small business owner in the city. I own a small civil engineering and construction manager, civil structural and construction manager, but I don't do construction. The reason my question basically has to do with good faith efforts. The good faith effort and the laws made to make good faith efforts, or lack thereof, it starts in Baton Rouge, which we've all been told constantly because we try to push for better and promulgate better policy here in New Orleans. I want to know, will you champion starting a reform for the good faith efforts that many large general contractors and otherwise have made an art of making a good faith effort? I call it the art to skirting the good faith effort. And really they're bad faith efforts. So even with all of the AGCs out there and the large construction companies with a lot of dollars to put behind the pockets, I want to know, will you champion and challenge them on the good faith efforts and the rules promulgating good faith efforts in the city?
Great question. I will and I have. Part of the reason why I'm the vice chair of the Black Caucus is because, one, we realize that the vast majority of our black business people in the entire state are focused here in New Orleans. So it's a large group that's here. So goes New Orleans, so goes every place else. One thing I did not say in the introduction was back under the Mark Morial administration, I spent 3 years on the New Orleans Aviation Board. Go back and check the record of the New Orleans Aviation Board. But for the record with his father, under those 8 years under the Morial administration, more black folks made money than at any other time in the entire state. And you take a look at it, aside from the school board, the airport made more black individuals. I would love to say we made 50 millionaires. We didn't do that. But a whole lot of people's pockets got real swole under Mark's administration because he had folks at the airport who were doing that kind of piece there. I have a history of doing that. I have a history before I got into office. I have a history now that I've been in office. And with the good fortune to be your next state senator, I'll begin it.
Anybody else want to react to it? We have other questions, but if you want to react to a specific question, feel free.
I can go again, go.
In the efficiency of time, yes, I will.
All right, let's go to the next question. You only have to react to what you want to. I apologize, Jeff. I'm sorry to interrupt.
Chester Williams, an electrical contractor here in New Orleans, DBE, a member of the collaborative. Everything that I heard so far, I like how y'all answered the questions concerning the DBE issue better than the previous group that we had. Looked like somebody answered the question bad, and the person next to them wanted to show them up, and they answered it worse. I would like to know You know, when you meet a lot of folk and you ask them what they're about, what's their intention, they usually tell you a lot of great things that's very true. But the true way that I like to find out what somebody's about, I like to know who their friends are, what group is supporting. And tonight, we never asked any of the candidates what political organizations are backing you, who's putting money into your campaign. Because if I can't figure out tonight who you are, I feel like I'm going to get a better understanding of what's going on if you share with me who's putting money in your campaign and who's supporting you and who's backing you.
If you would like, please stand and you can do an introduction, and if you want to answer that question.
Good evening. Thank you for having me, and my apologies for being late. I had a forum across the river. My name is Lourdes Moran, and I'm running for House of Representatives, District 102. As far as your question is concerned, I've just recently received Crescent City Democrats endorsement, the regular Democrats organization, IW Independent Women's Organization. I have Nadine Ramsey's endorsement. I have New Orleans Coalition, the Orleans Parish Republicans, and the Greater New Orleans Republicans, and they endorse me because they know I'm a fiscal conservative, just to answer that question, which helps me out tremendously with financial situations in state government. As far as what monies I have in my campaign, these are just monies from citizens. I have no PACs that are supporting me. There's no town money supporting me. I am literally calling people that I know, friends, that are donating to my campaign. I am, again, even though I am a former school board member, I am back to the roots that led me to being elected the first time.
And if we could run these two, anybody want to react to that? Just the question is who's supporting you?
Yeah, well, first of all, I hope the audience here is supporting me. But second, I don't have any big endorsements, there are no super PACs, nothing like that. It's primarily, I'm financing a lot of my own campaign. Like I said, this is the first time. I'm not a polished politician or anything like that. I'm an outsider who was jarred off the sidelines. So I hope that answers your question.
I too am a first-time candidate. I'm not a career politician in that sense. The Independent Women's Organization has endorsed, as well as the New Orleans Coalition, the Great New Orleans Republicans. That's right, Great New Orleans Republicans, because I am a fiscally responsible Democrat. Having worked on the executive side of government for 5 years, budgets matter, and balancing them is important for the long term, not just for 1 year and a month. So yes, I have their endorsement, for equality and also equal. And the majority of my contributions come to individuals. Less than 1% of the money that I've raised has come from tax.
Other questions from the group? Please.
I'll be quick. We got to tell the truth here. We can't just tell selective stuff as he said. 90% of the money that Eric Caulfield has raised has come from outside the state of Louisiana, from Boston, from New York, and Washington, D.C. Check their record, you can find exactly. Why in the world would 90% of people who have no connection to the state of Louisiana want to elect a senator in New Orleans? Inquiring minds wants to know. It's the truth. Check it out. I've been endorsed by most elected officials. I've been endorsed by most organizations. The reason for that, they know me. I didn't show up 24 months ago. I've been here for the last 40 years working on behalf of the people of the city of New Orleans. I've been here working in the public school. I've been here working at Southern University at New Orleans. I didn't show up Johnny come yesterday thinking I had all the answers. That's why folks are supporting me. That's why all the folks on this are supporting me. That's why other folks. That's why Republicans and Democrats, uptown, downtown, North Louisiana, and South Louisiana. Because I have a track record of getting things done no matter who it is. That's why folks are supporting me. They both answered that question right. He is endorsed by the IWO, but so am I. I wasn't endorsed by Republicans. I can't ask you why Republicans felt more comfortable with Mr. Caulfield than they feel with me. You gotta ask him that question.
Okay, 1 second. We're going to give everybody an opportunity to close, and you can react to things, but let's try to keep this as positive move forward on our agenda of minority business development as we can. You will get an opportunity to respond.
Hi, my name is, first of all, thank you all for coming. I know the trail gets tough these days. My name is Carol Balthazar. I'm a member of the Collaborative. I'm a DBE for a long time in this community. I think we can all say that we really relish and enjoy this kind of conversation tonight and the ability to just have the back and forth across the table with you. However, you know, sometimes once the campaigns are over, then we don't have this opportunity. And I'm just wondering if any of you have given thought to the importance and even the possibility of creating some kind of vehicle that would give little ordinary businesses, everyday folks like us, a mechanism by which you could hear from us and we could hear from you on a regular, really make it an integral part of your operation at the state level. It would be really, I think, very meaningful to us and maybe even have a major impact on our businesses. Have you considered or would you consider?
We'll go down the table, everybody.
So as I started out saying, for me, this race is again all about people. So how can you represent people if you're not talking to them on a regular basis to hear from their minds and take care about an issue that you're fighting for? So for me, it's absolutely yes on a regular basis, whether it's quarterly, whether it's every other month. We sit down and we have a conversation. What are you guys worried about? What are you seeing? What are you hearing? What should we be fighting for? If I'm putting together bills that are related to that, of course I'm going to contact the business community and specifically the school. So absolutely.
Yes, what I'd like to do is, I'd like to have an open door policy as a legislator so that any of the constituents can come or call me or communicate with me via email regarding concerns that they have. Primarily.
One kind of thing that you're going to hear tonight, folks want to talk about what they would do, what they get to change. I'm going to talk about what I have done over the last 5 years. We try to do this in every aspect that we're dealing with. Whether or not it's a business issue, I have the good fortune of knowing a lot of business people I talk to on a regular basis. My in-laws are parts of them. So I hear about the issues that DBs have on a regular basis. I hear about issues of starting a small company and trying to grow it and the challenges that you face and trying to get that done. So I'm aware of that particular idea, but not just that idea as it relates to business. I have educators in my family. So I have 5 or 6 different principals, some of the most successful principals in the entire state. And so I talk to them and say, look, there's this bill that comes up. They're saying this, that, and the other. Vet it for me. Tell me what's the truth. Give me the lowdown. Give me the skinny on what's really happening. Will this affect the education that's occurring inside your classroom? We have those same conversations with individuals who work in the law enforcement industry. So we tap into the expertise in this community on a daily basis to make sure we're making the most positive contribution and doing what's best on behalf of folks who sent to the Baton Rouge. I've done that for the last 5 years, and I hope to continue to do that.
I'd like to piggyback on what Marcy said. I also have experience with DBE. When I was president of the Orleans Parish School Board, that's when we passed a policy for DBE participation in the school system and the construction under OPSB, not RSD. I want to make sure we're clear, not RSD, OPSB.
That's right.
Okay?
That's right.
And then, while in office, I also did hear, and I see a lot of familiar faces in this room that came to make that point across, and your voice was clearly heard by me. DBEs need to have coverage, insurance coverage. We worked with trying to get CSRS and Jacobs to have you work on these construction pieces under their insurance, because we know that is at a cost, and not everyone can carry it. When we're talking about the nuts and bolts of DBE, believe me, I did become extremely knowledgeable in all that is unfair to those that are trying to lift themselves out of poverty. So I wholeheartedly have an open door policy. The more you educate me, the more I can do for you and me, because I am a minority. You know, I'm a woman, I'm Hispanic, just like you. I also need to have doors open. So we're all in this together, and I will work towards anything I can do to make those doors open.
Thank you. And out of respect of our host facilities, we've already overgone time, so we're going to go 10 minutes and we're going to close out. But I did want to acknowledge, I'm not sure if they have a representative in the room or a pastor, but Christian Unity Baptist Church, we definitely wanted to thank them for allowing us to be here. Is there a representative? We appreciate you. Thank you. So more questions? We'll close out with about 2 or 3 more. Sir, please stand and offer who you are and ask your question.
My name is Bill Lewis, member of the Collaborative and owner of a construction company. And my question is, well, the problem is that the major contractors generally are not very open to working with DBEs and minorities, so I have to push back. So what creative incentives will you sponsor or offer major contractors to work with DBE/minorities?
And I would ask, as you answer your question, and again, we're going to go through a couple of questions, so each of you don't have to respond to each one, but choose the one you want to react to and take 1 minute.
I definitely.
Agenda. So anyway, question 1. What is the candidate's plan for propelling equitable, capitalized, economic recovery? Meaning, what will you do differently that really addresses equity? Okay?
The reality, if we're going to have equity, we're going to have parity, we're going to have the true kind of economic strength that we need in our communities, it's not an overnight fix. And anyone who suggests that they have a magic wand and if they're elected, they're going to fix this for you tomorrow, just isn't being honest. And as we sit in the house of the Lord, I should have began as I normally do. It's always good to be found in the house of the Lord. So as we move forward, we talk about economic parity, we talk about creating equity opportunities and business opportunities. It begins with people like you, with the Collaborative, who come together and create those opportunities. And those of us who are policymakers take it to the next level of actually finding ways to get it funded. When there are capital projects going on, to make sure that we talk very loud and very firm about having DBE participation. And not just DBE participation, but just because you're a DBE doesn't mean you have to settle for the DBE portion. DBEs could have 100%. And I think that's the angle we should be pushing for. And it's about discussion. It's about using the bully pulpit when necessary, using the resources of our office to talk to firms about capital projects, buildings, and things that are going on, and make it very clear. It doesn't matter who you pick. I don't have a favorite horse. I don't have a brother-in-law. I don't have someone, but there are a lot of qualified DBEs. Come back and see me when you talk to some of them. And I think that's the best thing that policymakers and people in position of power can do to help enhance and grow minority businesses so they can become a part of the Main Street. And with that, I apologize. I'd love to stay with you guys. I've got a coin toss at Cars Homecoming tonight, and I've got another forum immediately following it. So I apologize for having to leave. I'd love to come back another time. Most of you are my friends and have had great relationships over the past. You can count on my support. When I go to the Senate, you know you have at least one good friend there. So God bless you. Thank you so much.
I hate to do it like this, but let me be honest. Almost everything that he said is what I would have said. I mean, it's absolutely true. The only thing that I would add is, let me tell you this, and look, it's one of the last questions, and that was going to be my answer to the first question. Look, I was around and worked with Senator Hudson, okay, in developing his Hudson initiative. Good friends with his son, Donald, okay? I know that in truth and in fact, most state agency heads don't even know what the Hudson Initiative is, okay? When I was in my department, I tried to make sure that we did provide it. And to the extent that I could, I collaborated with, my colleagues at other departments, at least let them know what it is. I can tell you, Buddy had no idea what it was. I know he didn't do it in his office. But it's stuff like that that I want to, try to make sure does help us get at least somewhat of an equal footing. And then in economic development, we have a whole department, that's geared toward that. Stephen Moore has been, I guess okay doing his job. Of course, he made a lot of money doing it. But the incentives that he made, we need to apply this.
Thank you. So the question is, what is the candidate's plan for propelling equitable economic recovery? And the sound you're hearing is the alarm. When it goes off, you have 5 seconds to wrap.
Okay, firstly, I would like to say that my parents are small business enterprises. My father operated Bologna Funeral Home, which is the 3rd generation funeral home. My mother operates the Broussard Bologna Law Firm, which has been in existence for 20 plus years. It is the largest female minority law firm in the River Parish. And it's interesting because she's actually worked on both sides of the DBE issue. One as a DBE applicant and DBE participant herself, being a DBE through New Orleans Aviation Board, and serving as outside counsel for the New Orleans Aviation Board, addressing DBE issues from a legal standpoint, as far as making DBE determinations, addressing DBE grievances, as well as advising the board when they are not in compliance with the law. In addition to New Orleans DBE, the state and local DBE, you also have state DBE requirements as well as federal DBE requirements that are not adhered to by any state agencies. And that's something that Ms. Bologna is very aware of, and that is definitely on her agenda, advancing as far as DBE is concerned. Thank you.
Thank you. I have to deal with it from two sides, both as the mayor, dealing with my own employees, and then also with people who come in to look for jobs also within our government or with private vendors. One thing that's very important is making sure that you know all the basics. You got to have a foundation. So a lot of people that come say, I've done this and I've done this and I've done that, and then you find out that they really are not equipped. So I recommend things like SCORE and see what these retired business people have done. We have a bankers roundtable, talk about financing and what happens there. We have on-the-job training programs. We have, although we have both labor, the building contractors, and general contractors working with people to try to help them move up the ladder. And we have to have collaborative partners, because we've been able to take some people that started off with us and they're now full-time with their own business.
Sir?
In relation to the DBEs and minority-owned businesses, as a minority owning a business, that is one of the things that I would like to see the state pay more attention to in all of its endeavors throughout. There's a lot of different projects at the federal government. I was a government contractor for about 15 years. And the federal government has some great programs that we can also duplicate within the state to allow the DBEs, minority-owned businesses, a special portion of certain projects that doesn't have to go out for bid. Because let's face it, DBEs and minority-owned businesses face capital crisis most of the time. We don't have the capital, we don't have the information readily available that the big companies have. So what we should do, not as a collaborative, as citizens of the state, as small business owners, is to utilize our resources together and hold the representatives and the governor's office accountable to the things that they should be doing to help grow throughout all communities.
Thank you.
As managing a transportation company and 30 employees and showing me transportation sales company, I know about small business, I know about DBEs. As a legislator, I would do as Manny Jackson did in Atlanta when they built the airport. I would bring in all the minority participation contractors to one side, and I bring in a company like Bow Brothers and say, okay, we're not going to have this 10% minority participation. It's going to be 50-50. Bow Brothers, you're going to supply the equipment, you're going to do the work. And that's what it would have been anyway. But instantly, that made the minority contractors millionaires. And we have to start doing that to balance out the equity in the small business area.
Very good. So to keep the microphone there, this question will go this direction, okay? So this one is, would you support a state-initiated DBE program to set goals of 35 to 45% on all qualified state-funded projects? Yes or no, and a short answer. This is a 30-second answer. Go.
Yes, support it. I can only say yes.
As a government contractor, I would have to say no on such a broad scope, simply because on some instances, there aren't, when you talk about multi-billion-dollar projects, that may not be the qualifications. I've run into this as a contract organizer for different things, and there's a lot to think about, and I would love to have it that way, but sometimes that would force you to have a contractor that's not equally equipped and put people at danger. And you need to think a lot farther than just right here. We need to think farther into the future and to see what the outcome of that actually is. And I'm a minority business owner, and I know that I could not do some contracts, even though I was offered, because I didn't have the equipment, the capital, or the people to be able to do it. So we need to be smart when we start talking about allocations and setting guidelines and goals.
I would push for the measure and support the initiative. But let me also tell you that setting goals we have done already in Baton Rouge. But let's take 7 fire stations that we contracted out for. 5 of those were awarded to minorities. Both of those contracts awarded to minorities, the minority vendor defaulted. And then when you looked at the security and the bonds they had supporting them, those were bogus companies that were out there, and they were acting as if they were covered in case something did not go right on the job. So I think that also has to be included in there, and some of those people who are messing up projects, we're beginning to take them off the list because the city parish is losing money.
Thank you, sir. Would you support a state-initiated DBE program to set goals of 35 to 45% on all qualified state-funded projects? Yes or no, and a short answer.
Okay. My answer would be absolutely, however. Absolutely, we would support a program such as that. However, in certain cases, you would need to make sure that there are DBEs available in those fields. For example, if you're looking for a hydrogeologist, how many DBE hydrogeologists out there are you going to find? You're not going to find any. So it certainly depends on what the field is. If we can find the DBEs, are they financially equipped to handle the job? And if they are not, what services can we provide to get them there? Can they be partnered with a credible bonding agency? And can we provide them with training and partnership so that they can be successful in their endeavors?
Sure. Thank you. Absolutely.
I need to remember that.
I'm not going to say absolutely, however. I'm just going to say, look, it's aspiration. It's not law. It's something that you're trying to obtain. And I think that's a good goal. I think it's something that you're trying to obtain. And we'll evaluate it. We see how it's going along. Yes, I would be in support. Thank you.
Good. So, one of the big issues, dear candidates, is that there on the books in New Orleans is a DBE certification process that we've gone through that allows now that any city contract, this group of collaborative members has now gotten law passed that is an ordinance that suggests that 35% of all dollars spent has to go towards disadvantaged businesses. One of the challenges that we're having as the minority-owned disadvantaged businesses, who in fact are certified, is that there are other businesses not minority-owned that are also certified and getting the majority of the work. So it just kind of seems like as the game was changed that there was this opportunity to grow specifically the African American and minority business community. It's not done what we had hoped because everybody's now getting this certification. So speak to how you might be able to address that. I can tell you before, this again is no zinger, we are specifically looking for a disparity study to take place. When you do a disparity study, it allows, if we can prove that the African American community specifically, which is our #1 cause, is being left out of the mix, then they will allow for a race and gender comment that says that there must be then this addition towards minority business owners receiving some of that 35%. So the question, if I didn't confuse you yet, y'all still with me? So the question is, do you support a disparity study? And moreover, as an elected official, would you do everything in your power to offer resources towards that disparity study to be complete? Because without it, minority business owners are left out. And so that's our question to you. And frankly, I'm going to ask, we're done kind of going up and down the table. I'm going to have multiple questions. I'm going to let 2 people respond to each question, and I'll keep track. So there's other questions if you feel one is more powerful that you want to react to. Does anybody want to react to that question specifically? It also would apply on a state level, the Hudson Initiative, and things of that sort. So does anybody want to specifically react to their support of African American business owners being directly called out that there should be a percent for them to participate when we say DBE contracts?
I'll address it,
Please.
simply because I need to stand up. I'm a passionate speaker. I have trouble sitting down and I'm short, so I'd like for y'all to see me behind the table. You know, when we come to, and as an American Indian, and the challenges we face were similar to the African American people. And so what we need to look at, and I have to say that in some cases, it can actually be an hindrance to demand a percentage of certain because of race. Because what it does is it angers the other side. And look, we already got enough people driving wedges between our society every single day because they're rubbing something in your face that I did, something in my face that you did. And it makes some contractors, as a minority, I got some contracts because I was the best contractor, but everywhere I went, you only got this because you are minority owned. You are American Indian, you don't deserve to be here. So we need to be careful. Now, as governor of Louisiana, I believe that we should have, equality all across the board. You should be equally represented in everything that we do. Every race, every gender, equality for women, equality for African Americans, equality for Latinos, Hispanics. We all have our own agendas, but we have to make sure that when we make law, we allocate taxpayer money, that's everybody's taxpayer. We have to be truly fair and equitable in what we do. I do fully relate, I fully understand, but I'm not sure if I answered your question directly, but I think we have to be careful in demanding certain percentages based on race, because I think it can backfire. Yeah. I've seen it happen in numerous cases. I mean, my territory and my business is nationwide, and I've seen it really backfire, so I think we should be careful.
Good. Take one more. Want to respond to that?
Sorry? Are we answering the question? Are we asking for advice? That's what I'm asking. The question was fake. There was a question that was fake. We need to have the question answered. On the advice section, then we'll.
He answered it. He answered it. He answered it. Basically, no.
Respond. Thank you.
Yes, we will be in support of such a study. I think that what you're asking is about a specific scenario where you have a majority firm and he puts his wife as 51% on the other firm so that she can compete against you for the DBE.
Yeah, let me offer a little clarity. So the question is, we know that that's occurring. We know that there are DBE certified firms that don't look like us that are benefiting from this set aside. What we're asking is, would you all in your position offer any resources to support us getting a disparity study done so that we can prove that we're not benefiting, therefore they would then look at that?
And the first thing I said was yes.
Okay. Yeah, I just want to make sure you knew kind of the point. Anybody else want to react to that? Otherwise, I go to the next question.
Let me say yes as well, but we had this big deal coming up about engineers for a project that we had. And yeah, disparity study, fine, but guess what? we're gonna have to work closer with these universities as well. And the other thing that we do in order to make sure is we begin from the moment they're in there to the training with a contractor, and also tell that contractor, we would like to see you move this person up as he takes on the skills and the ability to do other jobs.
Point. All right. You have a reaction?
Well, just one thing, point. Look, we all know that studies can come out any way you want. It just depends on who funds the study and what they want the result to be. So, you know, at the Attorney General's office, it wouldn't be my job, you know, to actually go out and do anything other than enforce what would be the law or the policy with regard to the decisions made. But I just don't think studies is where it's at. It would be the administrators in the governor's office and various other departments that want to comply and be fair and do what's right by all of our citizens. And that's my point of it. You know, it's studies, they're meaningless for the most part. And y'all know it. We all know it.
Thank you. Mr. Bagneris, did you respond
I'd just
to
like
that?
to say yes
We
to
may
that.
as well have you respond too.
I think I'll say yes to that question. And it's got to be a collaborative effort between the legislature and the governor's office and the city and the mayor's office. I mean, anybody can be in change their status at any given time.
So in the sake of time, what we're going to do here is we're going to give each of y'all a chance to close out, and then we're going to bring up Ms. Barbara Major to close out this session. Just so you guys know, keep your seats because we're going to be offering
questions from the audience. Based upon.
I think it depends on the timing, but I don't believe we have too many candidates for the 6:30. We're really gearing up for the 7. So for any candidate that would like to stay, I think we can stay and do that. So please, let's make that an opportunity. But let's just start at the end there. Mr. Bagneris, if you would, and take a minute and you can share anything you'd like to this group regarding your candidacy.
Again, I'd like to thank y'all for inviting me. I'm number 60 on the ballot, John Bagneris, State Representative, District 100 in Warrens East. I plan to do a lot of things for the East, and everybody's talking about crime. I mean, crime is citywide, and we have a big problem with crime. I think that as a legislator, all I can do is try to get the police department to cooperate with me. I have no jurisdiction over them. I can ask them to do. But my thing is, especially in my district, I would like to bring the state troopers and have them patrol Paris Road, Sheffield Highway, I-10, and Haynes Boulevard, which are all state highways. And that releases the police department to go into Crowder, Bullitt, and Reed to do their job. And we need more police on the street. I think the North Police Department is doing a great job with the 1,100 police officers they have. They're shooting for the number of 1,600, which is, I think they need 2,000, because we have to get back to the real deal, to really deal with crime. Murders, robberies, home break-ins. One man sitting in his house and people are breaking in his house as he's sitting there. I mean, we have to do something about this. As I said, John Bagneris, District 100, number 60. Please consider me. You tell 5, tell them to tell 5, and I'll keep going.
My name is Beryl Villiot, number 2 on the ballot, independent candidate for governor. I'm all about the people. I'm all about fairness. I will work for you, not dictate to you. I got into this race because of education. Education is the foundation of every civilized society. We need to increase opportunity. We need to bring business into the state. In order to lower the burden on every individual that's paying taxes, we don't need to increase your burden. We just need to increase the people sharing the burden. We need more people on payrolls and in jobs, and we need to deplete our dependency on the government, and we need to make sure that we're all sustainable. And I have a plan to do so. I'd ask you to consider me on October 24th for a brighter future for our children and our grandchildren.
Thank you.
Thank you. Let me say this again. No problem with disparity studies, no problem with other things. But again, we did the Bankers Roundtable. The Bankers Roundtable was comprised of bankers, black and white. But I got to tell you that Cherie Osgood took our program and began to sit down one-on-one with minority business people to tell them all of the basics that they had to get together. I mean, they had no expertise in accounting, how to run a business, none of the basic things in life. But we take those individuals, train those individuals, and then give them money through a loan program to start their own business. That's going to be the other thing. They have to have the seed capital in order to succeed. But at the same time, we have, after that, with other major companies in Baton Rouge, we then showcase the talent that they're missing out by setting up whatever standards that do not apply and keeping these people who can work out of a job and moving forward.
Thank you, sir.
I'm proud to be here this evening representing my mother, Jerry Broussard Baloney, candidate for Attorney General. My mother has 30 years of private business experience, which includes 20 years as a civil and criminal litigator, practicing in courts up and down the Mississippi River. She believes in prison reform. She believes in treatment over incarceration for nonviolent drug offenders, and she supports disadvantaged business enterprises and economic development in our communities. As a DBE herself and a businesswoman, I think that you will find that she is uniquely qualified to serve your interests as Attorney General for the state of Louisiana. Thank you very much.
Okay, I want to close by just thanking y'all again. I want to say again, my name is Ike Jackson. There are a lot of things that I would love to be able to, say to you guys that I'm just not able to say right now because of continuing obligations that I have to my former client, which was the state of Louisiana, and to some extent that right now is interfering with the obligations that I have to present private clients in my practice area, which is oil and gas and natural resources, and which I believe is probably the be-all and end-all of so many of our problems, but also so many of our opportunities in this state. So many of which have been squandered, and opportunities that have just not been taken advantage of by our governor and our sitting attorney general. Now, I believe I'm going to get clearance from ethics to bring out some of this stuff, so I want y'all to follow me on my website, IkeJackson.com, and I think once that happens, y'all will begin to understand that I am by far the most qualified and best opportunity we have to carry this state forward. We didn't get this way just with Bobby General. We got this way because of Bobby General and an Attorney General who could not stand, who wasn't capable of doing our job.
Thank you, sir.
Can I say one more thing?
One second. So,
we're calling an audible, if you haven't heard. We're going to bring Barbara up to have an opportunity to say some things about the collaborative, and then we're going to take some questions for those of you that can stay. The next session will start at 7 p.m. for the next political group, so that gives us about 15 minutes for anybody who can stay through questions. If you can't, we won't hold it against you because we do know the time commitment that you made to us. But I'm going to ask if you would at least stay long enough for Barbara to say hello. Hello. Please, Ms. Barbara Major. Round of applause for Ms. Barbara Major.
I'll be very short. First of all, thank you all so much because we understand that some of you are running around the state, some of you are running around town. It's a whole lot of difference, so we really appreciate your being here. The collaborative, as Geneva said, we're small businesses, but I also want to make it clear that we are a lot of small businesses, and we're not just small businesses. We're also community groups that represent lots of different interests, but always interests of those who are marginalized. For me, I'm an old-time community organizer, and so I would be remiss if I did not use this moment as a teachable moment. And so what I will say to you as you move and journey through this state or through your districts or whatever, that you come to understand the difference between equal and equity. And what we're talking about is historical marginalization. DBE is not just black businesses, it is small businesses, it is local businesses. So our struggle is not just about New Orleans, It is about economic access for folk in the state of Louisiana. It is interesting for us that we want to often bring businesses into Louisiana. However, we do not invest in businesses that are already here in Louisiana. So that's one of the things that we want to make as a priority. The other thing is not to assume the lack of capabilities of so many of our small businesses, because some of the most creative things this collaborative has done is, one, utilize those folks that we have on boards and commissions to create very creative opportunities for small businesses. So to think about as you journey and you, many of you will win this election and you sit in these positions, so to look outside of yourselves in terms of creating creative opportunities. One, I love the fact that you're talking about bringing banks together. We did that, and some of us did that. I did that as chair of the board of Regional Transit Authority. Well, I brought those banks together to say that our money is in your bank. Now, how you going to invest in our community? So it's that kind of thing. But also, and you mentioned, some of you mentioned seed capital, having experience being a minority, women-owned businesses, understand the challenges and geographically where you are, that we understand that economic opportunity is the priority. Education, and I'm only gonna speak, and I can speak for black folk, education alone has not offered access to us. So education along with opportunity is what it's all about. Equity is about the fact that we understand the historical marginalization and that you cannot start now at an equal space or place to move forward. But we've got to look at, and a disparity study for us, we've also learned, for many of us who are sociologists and for many of us who just understand that policy is created oftentimes by studies. And you're absolutely right, numbers can tell you what they want to tell you, but there are some numbers that don't lie. And that is how many people are poor in Louisiana, and how many people of color have businesses, and how many women and people of color have access and opportunity to contracting. So you guys have a great opportunity to change and to make things very different. And that will come with your conscience. And are you from the Homer Nation?
Yes, ma'am.
I think I knew your dad. I've been working a long time around this state, a very long time. Bayou Blue and all of that, and knew all of that. So to understand that we've got to keep in the collaboration, that we've got to learn to talk to people we've never talked to before, because they can bring some interesting opportunities. This collaborative, I think, is one group, and I'm sure there are other groups, because we have friends who we connect to in Baton Rouge, St. Tammany Parish, and so there are lots of struggling business, and they don't all look like us either. Some are white, many are women, some are black, some are Latino or Hispanic. So let's keep the conversation going. And thank you so much for, one, being open to listen, and two, definitely for coming here and sharing your understanding and your insight into what economic access means for people like us. And what they said is we not only got it as an ordinance, but we had the support of the mayor of the city. The DBE program is a part of the city's charter. So that's some historical stuff. And we got one with some teeth in it. And we created a department. In reality, put your money where your mouth is. Yes. When you get to the state, and I'll say that to y'all, when you get to the state level, come back and talk to us.
Thank you.
I'm gonna give it about 10 seconds to clear out. Anybody would like to stay to answer questions? Some people have to go.
I know, but let's get one question in quickly. Actually, I like to get one.
Sir, I have to.
Okay, well, okay, I just want to know if there's any creative ideas how incentives or that you may give majority contractors to work with DBE, that minority. We know we're challenged.
Yes, sir.
But how can we get them to help us?
Who wasn't capable of doing our job.
Thank you, sir. Can I say one more thing?
1 second. So we're calling an audible, if you haven't heard. We're going to bring Barbara up to have an opportunity to say some things about the collaborative, and then we're going to take some questions for those of you that can stay. The next session will start at 7 p.m. for the next political group, so that gives us about 15 minutes for anybody who can stay through questions. If you can't, we won't hold it against you, because we do know the time commitment that you made to us. But I'm going to ask if you would at least stay long enough for Barbara to say hello. Hello. Please, Ms. Barbara Major. Round of applause for Ms. Barbara Major.
I'll be very short. First of all, thank you all so much, because we understand that some of you are running around the state, some of you are running around town. It's a whole lot of different, so we really appreciate your being here. The collaborative, as Geneva said, we're small businesses, but I also want to make it clear that we are a lot of small businesses, and we're not just small businesses. We're also community groups that represent lots of different interests, but always interests of those who are marginalized. For me, I'm an old-time community organizer, and so I would be remiss if I did not use this moment as a teachable moment. And so what I will say to you as you move and journey through this state or through your districts or whatever, that you come to understand the difference between equal and equity. And what we're talking about is historical marginalization. DBE is not just black businesses, it is small businesses, it is local businesses. So our struggle is not just about New Orleans, it is about economic access for folk in the state of Louisiana. It is interesting for us that we want to often bring businesses into Louisiana, however, we do not invest in businesses that are already here in Louisiana. So that's one of the things that we want to make as a priority. The other thing is not to assume the lack of capabilities of so many of our small businesses, because some of the most creative things this collaborative has done is, one, utilize those folk that we have on boards and commissions to create very creative opportunities for small businesses. So to think about as you journey and many of you will win this election and you sit in these positions, so to look outside of yourselves in terms of creating creative opportunities. One, I love the fact that you're talking about bringing banks together. We did that, and some of us did that. I did that as chair of the board of Regional Transit Authority. But I brought those banks together to say that our money is in your bank. Now, how you going to invest in our community? So it's that kind of thing. But also, and you mentioned, some of you mentioned seed capital, having experience being a minority, women-owned businesses, understand the challenges and geographically where you are, that we understand that economic opportunity is the priority. Education, and I'm only going to speak, and I can speak for black folk, education alone has not offered access to us. So education along with opportunity is what it's all about. Equity is about the fact that we understand the historical marginalization and that you cannot start now at an equal space or place to move forward. But we've got to look at, and a disparity study for us, we've also learned, for many of us who are sociologists and for many of us who just understand that policy is created oftentimes by studies. And you're absolutely right, numbers can tell you what they want to tell you, but there are some numbers that don't lie. And that is how many people are poor in Louisiana, and how many people of color have businesses, and how many women and people of color have access and opportunity to contracting. So you guys have a great opportunity to change and to make things very different. And that will come with your conscience. And are you from the Holman Nation?
Yes, ma'am.
I think I knew your dad.
Alex.
I've been working a long time around this state, a very long time. Bayou Blue and all of that, and knew all of that. So to understand that we've got to keep in the collaboration, that we've got to learn to talk to people we've never talked to before, because they can bring some interesting opportunities. This collaborative, I think, is one group, and I'm sure there are other groups, because we have friends who we connect to in Baton Rouge, St. Tammany Parish, and so there are lots of company in business, and they don't all look like us either. Some are white, many are women, some are black, some are Latino or Hispanic. So let's keep the conversation going. And thank you so much for, one, being open to listen, and two, definitely for coming here and sharing your understanding and your insight into what economic access means for people like us. And what they said is we not only got it as an ordinance, but we have the support of the mayor of this city. The DBE program is a part of this city's charter. So that's some historical stuff. And we got one with some teeth in it. And we created a department. In reality, put your money where your mouth is. When you get to the state, and I'll say that to y'all, when you get to the state level, come back and talk to us.
Thank you.
I'm gonna give it about 10 seconds to clear out. Anybody would like to stay to answer questions? Some people have to go.
I know, but let's get one question in quickly. At least I like to get one.
Sir, I have to.
Okay, but I just want to know if there's any creative ideas how incentives or that you may give majority contractors to work with DBE, that minority. We know we're challenged.
Yes, sir.
But how can we get them to help us?